Welcome back once again. Now it's time for us to showcase the young entrepreneurs of Kerala. And before I welcome our moderator C. Balagopal, the Senior Advisor of Terumo Penmall Limited, Founder President of TIE Kerala, let me speak a few words about this great personality. Mr. C. Balagopal was the Chairman and Managing Director of Terumo Penpal Limited, Trivandrum, and is currently the Senior Advisor of the company. He was with Indian Administrative Service and has worked in various posts in Manipur and Kerala. He resigned from the IAS in 1983 to promote a joint venture company manufacturing innovative biomedical devices in India using indigenous technology. He has several awards to his credits, including the Management Leadership Award of Trivandrum, Management Association in 1990, National R&D Award for Successful Commercialization of Indigenous Technology by Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India in 1995, Outstanding Entrepreneurship Award from Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation 2011, Business Excellence Award 2011 from Trivandrum Chamber of Commerce and Industry. TPL has recognized by ISBTI and other national organizations for CSR activities aimed at promoting voluntary blood donation. Balagopal was the first president of TIE Kerala chapter and is currently a charter member. Sir, I request you to kindly take over.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are entering into a very interesting session. One way to celebrate and in fact promote entrepreneurship is by showcasing entrepreneurs and listening to their stories. This is something which I think possibly TIE alone can do in a way which no other organization can. And this is in fact one of the main benefits you get by attending such events like TIECons and other events in different cities which are run by different chapters. You get to see, you get to participate in sessions where you hear these My Story sessions told by people who will be talking about their successes and their failures. And that's utterly unique. Today, we have 4 young entrepreneurs. They have all made a mark for themselves. The youngest is, I think, 26 years old, 27 years old. That is Ashok there, Ashok Mani. And then you have at the extreme left there, Faisal, then Rajesh Nair, Ashok, and James. Now, they are all in different fields. So let me start with Faisal on the left. He started, I'm trying to keep it brief because during his talk, he will tell you more about what he does. But he started a steel company from scratch in the Middle East, from ground up. And after growing it to international size, he recently sold it in a multi-million-dollar deal. He has an outstanding entrepreneurship track record. But what is really remarkable for me, what I found very remarkable is not his undoubted entrepreneurial abilities in building an organization in the international market in a very difficult field like steel manufacturing, but his achievements as a social entrepreneur. And what he has done, the transformation he has brought about in a government girls' school in Kozhikode, the Nadakavu Government Girls' School, which he has converted into one of the finest girls' schools in India. And I think that is a story which really will make this TIECon come alive. Then next, seated next to him, that young professorial-looking guy is Rajesh Nair. There seem to be many Rajesh Nairs around today. So we'll have to give them like Rajesh Nair 1, Rajesh Nair 2, etc. Rajesh is, he teaches at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He runs an innovation and entrepreneurship lab. He is himself a serial entrepreneur, started various companies, still runs some of them, has many, many new ideas. But here again, there is I would say, a social entrepreneurship element to what he is now doing. He runs a fascinating program at MIT, which he has been basing on some experiments which he has done in some colleges here. His thesis is he can make anyone an entrepreneur. You know, some of us think entrepreneurs are born. Earlier, you heard this figure about 4% of the population are likely to have the entrepreneurship gene or the entrepreneurship virus, whichever way you look at it. Rajesh Nair begs to differ. He says he can make anyone an entrepreneur. And he has got a program with which he proves it. And he has run that program in colleges in Kollam and Trivandrum and places like that. And apparently the results bear out what he claims. I'm sure that's going to be a fascinating talk. Then we come to the young man, Ashok. He is the CEO of a company, interestingly called Kitchen Treatments. Sorry? Treasures, sorry. Kitchen Treasures. I'm sorry. My apologies for that. This is a subsidiary of the Synthite Group, which all of you know of, who are probably the international leaders in flavors, essences, and oleoresins. He will tell you his journey, which is just starting, and I'm sure it's going to be a long and very interesting journey in producing pure spice powders, blended curry powders, etc. He has already, in a very short time, made his presence felt in a very competitive and demanding market. We're all looking forward to hearing his story. And finally, we have James Joseph. He runs a company called Jackfruit 365. I suppose that means probably that he makes jackfruit available 365 days of the year. Now, James has an interesting background. As you can see, it had everything to do with jackfruits, his background. He was a director in Microsoft. Okay? He started his own venture after having a career which people would give their eye teeth to get, which is a top job in a company like Microsoft. He wanders into a Tycoon like this, I think the first Tycoon. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you better be careful. You don't know what crazy ideas you get here, you know. Here was this guy who walks in unsuspecting into a Tycoon here thinking, you know, he's then a director of Microsoft. And he walks out saying, that's it, I'm going to leave Microsoft, I'm going to start my own business, and he ends up making some product based on jackfruits. So, he has also written a book. In fact, so number one, he was inspired by the first Tycoon. And what's interesting is at the last Tycoon, he got the best startup entrepreneur award here at the Tycoon itself. He has recently written a book which has apparently entered the bestseller list. It's called God's Own Office, about his experience working out of his home while still working for a multinational company. So you have four very interesting speakers. We have a slight time constraint. I've discussed this with them, and they've all very graciously agreed to try and help us. But at the same time, I've been told by the organizers we have such a galaxy of speakers, so it's a dilemma. They're saying, no, please don't restrict them. But I still have a time, as moderator, that's all my job is to see that it ends on time. So I will start with Faisal. I request you to come and tell your story, Faisal. Thank you.
India is poised to build a new future, powered by the 3 Ds. India enjoys a unique position in the world today. While the resolve to envision a new India is strong, so are the challenges in our way. These include lack of healthcare and sanitation, the state of our education system, unemployment and lack of skilled labor, poverty, poor urban and rural infrastructure. But we believe that when a billion minds work together, no challenge is too daunting to overcome. We believe that when strategic and progressive policies combine with good governance, no dream is impossible to achieve. We are passionate about working to build a better India. We are KEF Holdings, a global business organization founded by Faisal E. Kotikulan. With offices in Singapore, the United Arab Emirates, and now in India. We operate in 6 business verticals of investments, healthcare, agriculture, metals, infrastructure, and education. We specialize in creating integrated and sustainable models that transform industries and contribute to a stronger society. Through close collaboration over strategic initiatives through the Faisal and Shabana Foundation, KEF Holdings is driven by its mission to bring about change in society and raising the quality of life across communities. Our business vertical, KEF Infra, is mandated to build faster, reliable, efficient, and cost-effective infrastructure. The centerpiece of KEF Infra's initiatives in India will be the industrial park located in Krishnagiri, Tamil Nadu. When completed in the first quarter of 2015, the 42-acre LEED certified park will be India's first fully integrated industrial destination that exclusively focuses on off-site construction technology. KEF Industrial Park will have 4 units that will seamlessly cater to the off-site construction industry of India's southern states. 1. A world-class precast factory. 2. A unit that manufactures modular bathrooms and modular MEP. 3. A full-fledged joinery unit. And 4. A unit dedicated to aluminum glazing. This industrial park model, which is replicable across the country, will enable India to build essential infrastructure that the country so urgently needs. Schools, colleges, hospitals, and housing. The KEF Infrastructure Park model is set to transform the way India approaches, executes, and delivers on its construction projects. KEF's model initiative in the area of healthcare is the PMHP Hospital at Kozhikode. The PMHP Hospital is scheduled to open January 2016. The hospital will be India's first modular medical facility, completely designed and constructed using precast technology, which will be supplied by the KEF Industrial Park in Krishnagiri. The hospital is scheduled to be completed in a record 16 months. We at KEF believe that the future of any country rests in the hands of its children. KEF, along with the Faisal and Shabana Foundation, has partnered with the government of Kerala to create a revolutionary model for upgrading public schools. Using precast construction technology, this 120-year-old girls' school, the Government Vocational Higher Secondary School Nadakavu in Kozhikode, was transformed in just 10 months. Today, it is recognized as a top 5 government school in the country. We are now replicating this model in another 100 government schools in Kerala, and soon the rest of the country will follow. We at KEF Holdings believe that India has begun an exciting chapter in its destiny, which will be marked by positive transformation, progress, and change. This direction will lead to new opportunities, prosperity, and a better quality of life for its citizens. In line with this momentum, KEF is taking its first steps towards working for a more vibrant India. Our journey to a brighter tomorrow has only just begun. KEF Holdings, your partners in building an India of our dreams.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Albert Einstein once said, try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of value. This is something I followed since the last 20 years of my entrepreneurial career. The organization model of KEF Holdings, we have seen, is that of a social enterprise. How I started, I just wanted to brief you. With the first profits when I made in 2006, I decided to put back the entire profits for the development of my employees in Emirates Technocasting. Just wanted to show you what we have done. We had 1,200 people. We had 300 engineers and 900 workers. I said to myself, you know, they have worked very hard, build up this organization, and it's my responsibility to give it back to them. So that time, company had made roughly 25 million dirhams of profits in Indian rupees, probably 40 crores. So that same year, I decided to put back the entire 25 million in creating a world-class community center. The purpose was, me and my wife Shabana also joined at the time of the business, to empower the people who did not have an opportunity to go to school or go to colleges. So we had a compulsory 45 minutes training for everyone during the working hours. And trust me, in the matter of 3 years, everybody who was working in that company was empowered. Everybody could read and write English. They could fill their own forms when they traveled back to India. So that really motivated me to go into social entrepreneurship. That was my first beginning. When I sold the whole business to Tyco International in 2012, we were wondering what should we do next. And the company which we started with $5,000 in 1995, with all this innovative thinking, was sold to Tyco at that time for $400 million. Me and my wife decided it's a great journey we did, and we could do something really others couldn't do in a foundry world. We transformed the foundry, which was a red category, to a green category. Everything what we produced or used, 97% was recycled back into the production of valves, which is sold to the oil and gas sector. In 2007, we've been officially rated the top 3 in the world by an association which rates the foundries across the world. With that experience, we decided, why don't we replicate this model into the basic necessities of life? Because a lot of technologies evolve with time, but fortunately, unfortunately, it has not been deployed in the, I would call it as a fundamental industries, that is healthcare, education, basic infrastructure, or agriculture. So what we are doing in India is exactly to support these industries. And you all would have seen the movie and the park which we have just started production at Krishnagiri is to support the growth of these basic industries. And this is a 300 crore investment, and I would rather, instead of me talking on my own business, we'll have the official inauguration in June and we would like to request whoever is interested to visit the park. It is one of a kind in the world again. It's fully integrated. What we do here is we manufacture schools, we manufacture hospitals, we manufacture any basic infrastructure completely in the factory and assemble on the site as a Lego block. And that will bring down the time minimum by half. And we always say the economical value is not the cost. For every business, it's the return on investments. And that is what people should look at it. In India, when I started, first thing people ask me is, how much is per square feet? So I said, I'm not charging even 1 rupee more than what the conventional technology is being used. It's the same or cheaper. But more important is the quality and the time. And we should give importance to time, and time is money. And that's what we are bringing into our country. The most important part of the factory which I like to highlight is the bathroom. The bathroom factory which we are under construction now is world's largest bathroom factory, and it is patented by us. We will be producing 30,000 bathrooms in a year. That means 100 bathrooms in a day. The concept came to me because you drive a car called Tesla, which is completely on the battery. And I have a home near to the Tesla factory. And that's the most advanced automobile manufacturing in the world today. Elon Musk is an innovator. So I said, if Elon can do something for the car, what we need in India is, I've seen many automobile factories flourish across the country, but we don't have the basic necessities in life, which is sanitation. And what I'm doing now is exactly how the car is made, the bathrooms are made. So it's with 15 robots. It's like an assembly line, and you will see bathrooms coming out from the line. And this can be public toilets. It could be for high-end toilets for hospitals. And what we have done was, I always believed in my entrepreneurial experience, best is instead of giving presentation, walk the talk. So we decided to set up a world-class health facility. First thing I decided is, don't forget the roots, where you come from. I studied in a very normal school in Calicut, and that's why the reason I took up the school project in Calicut Government Narakawa School. Second thing is, the most important thing is when we are sick, we go to the hospitals. And I always believed, whenever I come to India, I've been out of India for the last more than 20 years, healthcare is still a big challenge. So what we are building in Calicut is a world-class healthcare facility. It is, again, manufactured completely in the factory. So 90% of the hospital is done in the factory. And you can see, and again, everybody is willing to come and see the technology. It's going on now. So January 5th onwards, you can see like a Lego block, the whole 3 lakh square feet, which is the first phase, building. And we plan to complete it in 5 months before the monsoon starts. And another 6 months, all the inside work will finish. And January 2016, a world-class hospital, that's my dream, to be presented to Kerala's people. Next is the housing. India needs 110 million housing units by 2022 if it has to house all its citizens. Development of large-scale affordable housing is the greatest necessity for urban India today. To meet the infrastructure demands of our country, especially of the weaker sections, we need to quickly adapt to modern construction technology. Because today, our country, our Prime Minister Modi said 3 S's: scale, speed, and skill. If you have to do that, we need to keep up the pace of the economic growth, which we hope to see an 8% growth. Unless and until we bring in technology to the basic industries, it will be a big challenge for our country to keep up this economical growth. And today, India lies not in the cities. Of course, Amitabh Kant was there in my factory a few weeks ago. And he said every second, 30 people are moving into urban India. But what I say is, I agree to him, but we need to do the reverse. We need to empower our villages and our Tier 3 and Tier 2 cities. We need to create education, we need to create healthcare facilities, we need to create agriculture facilities throughout the country. And for all these things, we need technology. And what the model we are bringing is to speed up all these activities. And there's one factory is not enough. India needs hundreds of factories like this. I plan to do 4 in our country, but I always try to give the technology to the people. If any one of you all are interested in understanding what we are trying to do in detail, since Mr. Balagopal said we don't have much of a time, I'm here for a whole day. If anyone wanted to talk to me and get me the details, I'll be more than happy to share that. So I wanted to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. Ty does a great job. It's originated from Silicon Valley, and I have a lot of association with the valley itself because we lived there for some time. And all the best, and I'm sure that I'm also looking forward to listen to many young entrepreneurs and senior members who are present over here. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. So I think I got the invite from Ty about a week back requesting me to speak at this event. I was very skeptical, right, because I'll tell you the reason. Not because I didn't want to speak here, but about a couple of months back, I was invited to speak at this event where I was supposed to talk on food processing and the industry's potential. I walk up to the event, I see the coordinator right before it's about to start, and I tell him, hey, I'm Ashok, I'm from Kitchen Treasures, and he's got this weird look on his face. It's like, I thought the CEO of Kitchen Treasures was coming. What happened to him? How do you respond to something like that, right? And in fact, when I walked in here, the first words I heard were, you were the youngest speakers showcased today. I think that itself, it's inspiring, and I think that's been the force behind my entrepreneurial drive, right? Going against the flow, always swimming against the tide, and that's what's been the thrill behind all of this. And in fact, I did look up numbers. About only 3% of the world's CEOs are under the average height of 170. I'm 172, by the way. But still, see, that's been the thrill. It's been a joyride so far, as short as it's been, and I hope it's going to be for a longer period, right? Where all milestones, and I'm telling you, all milestones at this particular point just seem like stepping stones. All you want to do is just keep going and keep achieving more. And I remember about 5 years ago, barely 5 years ago, I was a fresh college graduate out of school trying to figure out what I wanted to do. About 2 years ago, I was sitting in that very same seat there, trying to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And you know what, thanks to the Lord Almighty, things have been all uphill from there. And obviously, that's the reason why I'm standing here to speak a little bit about my experiences during this time. Now, from an industry experience perspective, I have very little to share. I think my speakers on the dais and the others to follow are far more richer in experience than me. So let me just share my time at being with Synthite and with Kitchen Treasures and my time as an entrepreneur. Synthite, right? So I'll just quickly touch base on Synthite. I know all of you know Synthite, but in my grandfather's words, as he rightly puts it, about 40 years ago, he was a naive young entrepreneur with a civil background who was entering into the spice extraction business, which is then largely dominated by Western markets. And he keeps saying, all I had is a little bit of cash, I had some experience from my time at CFTRI, and I had a possible end customer in the US. Then there are 2 other things that he had. He had half a truckload of black pepper, and he had 2 truckloads of determination and will. And I think that was the humble beginning of Synthite. Having started in 1972, today, as you all know, Synthite in 2014 is the world's largest supplier of value-added spices, essential oils, and oleoresins. Grossing over 200 million in revenues, Synthite has 7 manufacturing plants across India and 1 in China. And with over 2,000 employees, we cater to customers across 85 countries. For Synthite, we try to be different. We set the farm to fork model, right? A model that has been successfully implemented by very few countries across the globe. And that's exactly what we are targeted. And particularly because of the resounding success in the oleoresin business, it forced us to look at the ecosystem in a very different way. And that's how we've arrived at Kitchen Treasures as well. So after our success in the oleoresin business, we said backward integration was the way to go. If you can sell spice extracts to your consumer, you can sell spice powders as well. Today, having started in 2007, Synthite Spice Division today is a 180 crore unit supplying to all major food and seasoning companies across the globe. The obvious step after that was going further backward. Now your consumers actually wanted high quality spices with a very high level of quality specifications inbuilt into it. Today, with over 10,000 farmers covering about 50,000 hectares of land, Synthite procures nearly 20% of all its agri produce from its farm tech activity, through which we hope to bring sustainability through this venture into farming. What we saw then was constant evolution in taste. We saw global taste changing, we saw Indian taste palettes changing, and what we understood that we had very good knowledge across flavors and we had very good knowledge across spices. And we had a great understanding of what the market requirement was. When we put all this together, we understood the flavors market was the right market to go behind. Simega Savory Technologies today is a 150 crore enterprise catering to all flavors and seasoning companies across India and the globe. Now, where do we end, right? You've gone from farm to flavor. The only step left for us was kitchen treasures to get to the consumer. And that's how we've been different. We've established the farm to fork model. Kitchen treasures is in very early stages right now, so I'm too early to even speak at an occasion like this. But so far, the story has been good. The consumers have accepted our product, and today we're one of the fastest growing brands in the state. Now, a lot of people have asked me, right, Synthite has been at the pinnacle of value addition. Why go with spice powders? Because that's possibly one of the most common product you could deal with in Kerala. You've got close to what? About 300 brands that you could count in Kerala itself, with 20 of them doing extremely well. But I think the obvious answer, one of the most obvious answers was Synthite. What's our USP, right? We are being backed by Synthite. Synthite today, with 42 years of experience in the spice industry, we're one of the world's largest producers of value-added spices. And if you want to look at quality accreditations, I think we are right there, right? And when we understood the market, when we understood Kerala market, we thought that was the gray area, right? The consumer wanted a product that was 100% pure, being backed by a spice giant. And that's where we felt, irrespective of the fact that we're getting into a very basic product, we thought this is where consumer is going to accept us. So that's the beginning of Kitchen Treasures. And obviously, from a marketing perspective, we've understood that the market needs something different. We've tried to enhance on packaging. We've tried to make the product a little more than the very basic chili powder that you're looking at. And we intend to be different. We don't want to stick with spice powders alone. We've got a whole bunch of products coming in the next couple of months. And that's, in fact, see, that's where Synthite's strength lies, right? We've got about 150 people working on R&D and quality alone. And I'm looking at 500 odd products coming out in the next 3 years. I think that's something a very few companies in India itself can boast of. Obviously, I don't include the likes of the ITCs and Unilevers in that list. But see, this was not the main reason. This was one of the reasons. Synthite was one of the reasons why we've gone through Kitchen Treasures. What we actually saw was a large pool of consumer. We looked at Kerala and we saw a large pool of consumers whose education levels, employment levels, and standard of living was rising day by day. And the standard of living was significantly being affected by the lifestyle decisions, the foreign exposure, and the level of expectation they had. And all of this being backed by a disposable income which was growing day by day. And see, this is where we saw potential. This is where we saw this large group of people don't just require spice powders or masalas, but they're looking for newer products in beverages, they're looking for newer products in ready-to-eat, and even in frozen foods for that matter. And so that's exactly where we figured out the way forward for Kitchen Treasures is going to be. It's not going to be the 600 crore spice market, but rather it is a 60 lakh household whose daily consumption of packaged foods had gone sixfold in the last 10 years. And that's exactly what Kitchen Treasures intends to be in the next 10 years. We just don't see our products in the spice shelves that you have at home, but we hope it will be in your kids' takeaway kit as well, and in ice cream vendors, and even at a medical store. That's what Kitchen Treasures aims to be in the next 10 years. Right, I've got a few slides on attractiveness of food processing industry, but I guess for shortage of time, I really don't want to touch base. And moreover, thinking about it, opportunities, I think all of you guys, aspiring entrepreneurs out there, you're already aware of, right? So it's not something that I need to touch base on. But I take all my opportunities to put forward this slide because entrepreneurship in food processing seems to be a dying art. Everyone seems to be talking about technology. About 2 days back, the 1.5 crore offer for the IITN from Facebook seems to be the talk of town. In fact, that's one of the hardest challenges for us today. When we walk up to an MBA school for hiring, we're pitted against the likes of the Googles, the Amazons, and the Facebooks. What do, right? It's impossible to hire. There's often a joke that we share with the students while we're there. We tell them markets are not always rising. Recession is bound to come. And what happens during recession? What happens to your IT industry or to advertising during the recession period? What is the only industry that just not survives, but rides the wave of recession? And I'm telling you, it's the food processing industry, and I'll tell you why. Because the very minute recession comes, there's going to be a significant loss of jobs. What happens when you lose job? You get depressed. What happens when you get depressed? You get stressed, and you end up eating a lot more. Guess who makes a lot of money? We do, right? So I know it's a very quirky way to look at things, but then given a very clean platform, I think the food industry offers a great return on investment. So I think anyone out there aspiring to be a food entrepreneur, please continue on with your plans and let me see how we can help you in the process as well. I think, as I said, I don't intend to touch upon the opportunities, but something I wanted to share is my time as a young entrepreneur. What has really helped me? What have been the fundamentals that have helped me come here and give this talk to you today? Obviously, EQ bigger than IQ, right? It's how you challenge your situation, how you build up to the occasion. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is grabbing an opportunity, because opportunities really do not come very often, and you just got to latch onto it like it was your life. I still remember I had just completed the China plant implementation for Synthite, and I'd come back and I was settling down here when the Synthite board actually offered me the job to head the FMCG division, right? For a second, it seemed astonishing. I was held back. I couldn't even breathe. Because for me, this was not just another project. It was a 10-year project that could even alter the course of Synthite's future. A brand that could be the face of a global spice major, a brand that really needs to live up to a reputation of a company that had been built across 40 years of hard work and labor. They were entrusting this in the hands of a 27-year-old and not 26. But see, that was a hard part. Taking that step away and realizing that this was a great responsibility being kept in my hands was the extreme hard part to it. But you know, the best part was that was the only 5 seconds to which I was tense. I've never blinked after that. And I think that's the very first step in entrepreneurship, right? You always got to back yourself, always got to believe in yourself that you can do whatever the task is at hand. I think that's what's helped me get to first level. I think the second point was be holistic in all your approaches to an opportunity. People keep saying jack of all trades is the master of none, but really, in my experience, I think you've got to be jack of all trades when it comes to entrepreneurship. I don't have an MBA degree in finance or marketing or sales, neither do I have expertise in operations or packaging or human resources, but what I do have is some knowledge across all these sectors. And I think in entrepreneurship, that is what is required, for you to be a mile wide and an inch deep, because all your resources are always going to be a mile deep and an inch wide. So make sure that you use your time really, even at school, college, to understand, to have a global perspective, irrespective of the topic. Don't think I'm a finance guy, I'm going to learn finance and accounts and that's it. Have a good knowledge across all your verticals, across all your sectors. And I think the other point that's really helped is work tirelessly, right? Today, young aspiring entrepreneurs are all under the age of 40, and I think the average statistics say that 8 hours of sleep for a 40-year-old man is good enough, but I'm assuming all of you here, aspiring guys under the age of 40, you really need only about 6 hours, right? And I think that is the amount of effort and time that you got to put in at this particular age that you have. I particularly reach out to the audience that are my age here. Besides being a CEO of Kitchen Treasures, I also try and help Synthite in its strategic plans as well. And I'm also a co-founder of an IT startup. Today, I work close to about 17 hours a day, and I'm loving it. I've never felt better. So guys my age, please put in your maximum effort. Don't see time as a constraint, because if you put in your effort right now, I think 10 years from now, you'll see that you'll be sitting in various positions. Our leaders are sitting here today. Another hard part has been accepting failures. I think for a Malayali, it's even harder, right? Just the fact that you failed. But that's your biggest learning. Never see a failure as a failure. It's always a learning for you. And I think that's where it really helped, because before getting to the FMCG business, we tried acquisitions, right? We've looked at close to about 6 acquisitions over a span of a year. And I almost gave up. I almost said, you know what, this is not just for me to do. But I think that the learning that I figured out from the 6 failed acquisitions has really helped me build this brand faster than we could have done through an acquisition itself. And I think so that's been the important part, to identify that it's really not a failure. But if you look back, if you really take a step back, and if you realize there's a lot of learning from it, that's when you've actually won over yourself. And the last one that I really want to bring about is dream big, right? Dreams don't have limits, but don't let it not be about money, but let it be about achievements. My target to my sales and my marketing team is not 20 crores of sales in the first year, but it's rather to reach out to 20% of all households at least once. And I think once you've taken money out of the picture, then strategy really becomes a walk in the park. I think before I close, I keep talking about hard work. There's this famous quote that I like. It says, perseverance is the hard work you do after you get tired of doing the hard work you already did. I think with that, I would like to close. Thank you.
You know, one of the great bonuses of Tycon for us older folk is that we always come and in case any one of us the delusion that we know it all or that we've seen it all, we are always surprised and you always learn from much younger folks. Thank you for a very good presentation, Ashok. And now I'll request James to come forward for his.
Thank you. And Ashok, I must say that it's very reassuring to say there is money to be made from food. That is one takeaway from your presentation. Thank you. I think I have some confidence now. But good morning, everyone. This is my third TiCon. And in fact, 4 years ago, almost December 2010, I was here. That's the first time I shared a secret about myself, which is about, in fact, M.S. Kumar was a speaker before me. This is the CII ICT 2010. At this conference, I shared how I work for Microsoft from a village in Kerala. And M.S. Kumar was talking about how they went to a Kumbalangi school and how the teachers said that, okay, her daughter now works for a bank in New York. Somebody who studied from a government school in Kumbalangi and then went up to New York. And that's how reassuring how our youth is moving out and moving up. And then I responded that, okay, will it be even greater if, 5 years later, you go back to the same school and then meet the daughter, and she says, I work for the same bank in New York, but my daughter and my son studies in the same school in Kerala, and I do that from Kerala. So is it possible for us to envision that our youth comes back with their children and continue to work from Kerala? And that is, when I spoke about my experience of working for India, living in Bharat, India is the big metros, and Bharat is our hometown. And I shared that on the stage, and then Chris Gopalakrishnan at the Speaker's Lounge stopped me and said, James, you must share this experience. A lot of youngsters in India are stuck almost 2 hours of traffic in the metros in India. You must document your experience and share this with people. So that changed course for me. So 3 years ago, I was at the TiCon, first TiCon, and I decided to write the book and to share my experience about how I went around the world, eventually came back to Kerala and worked for Microsoft without borders from my village in Kerala. And I got what I call the best work-life resonance in my life. My work excelled really well, my life excelled really well, and I wanted to share that. So I decided to write a book. And I was sitting in the attic and writing a book, and then I found this jackfruit tree next to the attic. And the jackfruit tree turned into the jackfruit burger, and then it turned into jackfruit 365. I won't be talking about jackfruit 365 because I spoke about it last year. But what I want to talk about is my story, my journey. Okay, in the first TiCon, I was here, and so this morning when I was driving to the conference here, I looked at the Twitter feed, and aptly enough, the first one which came up to me was $1 million ideas are a dime a dozen, but the determination to see it through is priceless. And I'll give you two of my examples. One is an idea without determination, an idea with determination. The idea without determination happened in '97 when I came back from Warwick after my master's. And during my 1 year at Warwick, every night, almost every night, two of my flatmates are from Mexico. And then, when they brought in the tortilla, which looks like the chapati, and I used to tell them, we have the same dish in India, which is chapati. And then they walked me through how households consume tortilla in Mexico. And I tell them how we make it ground up from the flour to the chapati. They said, okay, your women are losing a lot of productivity. So what they have is that they have corner shops where they have what you see in Lulu Mall. There's a machine, and you get the chapati at the end. And everyone comes and buys fresh chapati or fresh tortilla every day for, by weight, they buy it. So nobody makes chapati at home. They buy fresh chapati, ready chapati, and they make the curry at home. So I thought this is fantastic. There's a lot of productivity we can achieve. So I made a trip in Kerala. So I went to one of the largest bread manufacturer in Kerala. I went to them and said, okay, we should get into the tortilla making machine. We should bring tortilla making machine to India. And every flat, every household should have a corner shop with a tortilla making machine. And he sent me back with this in a chauffeur-driven car back to the city, and then I came back. So it was a great idea, but I didn't have the determination. And a year later, I was back in the US working there, and then I went to visit my friend for his wedding. And they took me to the tortilla making corner shop in Guadalajara in Mexico. And I still, when I look back, I missed that idea. I didn't follow through on that idea. I didn't have the determination, and I was not ready at all. Didn't have the determination to follow through on that idea, and that is what makes an idea succeed. You need to have the determination. And last, the first icon, I was here, and I'll walk you through my perspective. I mean, I was stuck between the grown-ups of Kerala and the startups of Kerala. That was the unique perspective I had. The grown-ups are the established businesses in Kerala, the TIE charter members, all of them are, established business players. And the startups, I mentored 3 of them at the startup village in Kochi. So my role at Microsoft, I used to interact with the grown-ups, the established businesses, those were my clients. But mentoring startups, I learned a completely different way of doing business. The courage which the youngsters bring in. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Startups, something which you guys should know. Startups, it's all about valuation. They don't care about revenue. It's all about valuation. They want to exit the business faster than they entered into this world. It's all about valuation. Whereas grown-ups, it's all about revenue. It's all about cash. My grandfather started the business. I want to save enough cash for my grandchild for a rainy day. It's all about revenue. It's all about cash. And that is how they run their business. On the other side, the startups, so the grown-ups, in fact, I was talking about an FMCG business, and a veteran told me, James, to start an FMCG brand, the thumb rule is that you must have 2 crores of advertisement revenue. You should spend 2 crores in advertisement to start off with. So now you work backwards, how much revenue you need to have to get that 2 crores worth of advertisement revenue. Then I go to the startups, and I ask them, so how do you do marketing? What's your marketing budget? So they have a consumer product and a B2B product. They said, for our B2B business, we need 2 flight tickets every quarter. That is our marketing budget. So we need to go meet our B2B clients to Delhi and Mumbai. So we need 2 flight tickets. That's how, for consumer product, which they have an app, which is for the consumer product, 0 budget. They use social media. They use social media completely. So the consumer product, they use social media. For the B2B, they need to be there. So so you got the 2 crore on one end, you have nil on the other end. And they use e-commerce, e-commerce is what they normally use for selling products. Whereas the grown-ups, it's all about traditional. They need to have a person to excuse. If something goes wrong, they need to see a person. So they don't like things seeing on the online stuff. So what I did was I actually brought the 2 together. So the lessons so I focused on revenue, I focused on cash, that is my training. Whereas I used the social media marketing, and I used the e-commerce as a way to reach market. So traditional retail business, it takes 4 hours to build that. And whereas e-commerce, from day one, it was available all over India. We will send it by courier. And I can control the cash outflow. We only give it cash by credit card, so people buy it online, the cash comes in first, then the material leaves here. Then what did I do? So and this is something which I will encourage all youngsters who are trying to start business. Capacity is better than capital. Wherever possible, leverage excess capacity. Capital plus time is capacity. And that's, for example, jackfruit, in fact, Sri Peshurin mentioned that we need to have more and more entrepreneurs coming into the agriculture sector. And Ashok mentioned food, there is money. People consume a lot of food, and it's going to grow up. So how do we ensure, so what I did was I partnered with the grown-ups in Kerala. So Amalgam Foods does the manufacturing and packaging it for me. And whereas I use e-commerce to market, then and play up to your strength, which is, so I use the capacity of existing players to get the market out in the first year itself. If I were to build the capacity on myself, it will take 3 years to get the first product out. So leverage wherever possible. I need to have a good cause, you need to drive a good cause to get the partnership together. So that's in the first one is capacity is better than capital. The next one I want to share is play up to your strength. So when I looked at, I come from an automotive industry, I worked in the software industry, and I'm getting into food industry. And I must thank Tycon to give me the confidence to get in. Okay, so the charter members encouraged me, James, if you can, in fact, one of the conversations I had is, I'm not from the food industry. I threw the idea of the jackfruit venture to many of you. And I said, look, I'm not from the food industry. I don't know, I mean, liability is a big issue for me, so I can't work on it. So they said, if you can sell software, it's much easier to sell food. I didn't buy that, but when I analyzed the problem, it was jackfruit had to be repositioned, which is a marketing problem. And I've worked in marketing for years. So rebranding is something which I can handle. That is my strength. But as long as I got a partner who could get the jackfruit into a pack, to me it is like a Microsoft Office. Once it is in the pack, it is like a Microsoft Office. I know what to do with it because it's got a 1-year shelf life. I know how to market it. So what I did was I ran a marketing campaign. For the last 1.5 years, I ran a marketing campaign repositioning jackfruit from an inferior food to superior food. So for me, the 5-star hotels was #1 to reposition jackfruit. Now I got 50 recipes. 50 recipes from top chefs and restaurants in India. These are mouth-watering recipes, which is a shock and awe to take a humble jackfruit and put it on the fine dining table of India. So that was something which I did was to recreate or reposition jackfruit as an aspirational superior food. That is the first one. Then I need to give 100 recipes. How do you consume jackfruit? So consumption is the first part. Supply was never an issue for jackfruit. So consumption, how do you increase the consumption? So create demand. And that is to create value. So when a farmer brings jackfruit to the market, there is no confidence that somebody is willing to pay money to buy jackfruit. That is the issue why 80% jackfruit in India goes waste. So for me to create that market, create the confidence in the farmers that, okay, people are willing to pay a price to jackfruit. That is what I'm trying to do with this campaign. Now, again, you shouldn't hold yourself back because you don't have capital. And I'll give you one more example. Somebody, one of the startups, startup ideas which I got, and something which you should use for the mentoring session and the pitch session is that somebody wanted to create furnitures out of the seaweed in Kerala, which is the hyacinth, the African pile. So there is a machine which can take the entire seaweed, crush that, make it dry, convert that to logs, which you can convert that to furniture. I said, if you want to get into that, first thing you should do is that start importing that furniture to India first. Find out if there is a market or not. So do not put a capital equipment, upfront cash investment, and then figure out nobody likes that furniture. It's too late. So always, hold on to cash and then go with the model to test the market, which is what I'm doing with Jackfruit 365. So play up to your strength, right? So marketing I mentioned. I'll give you one more example. So luckily, so now on the second year at Tycon, I can tell you jackfruit is going global. So we have got the first export order. So Middle East, by Christmas, we will have the first consignment of jackfruit going to Middle East. Jackfruit 365 will be available in Middle East. So one of the lessons I learned by promoting the jackfruit is, okay, we must have recipes on the pack. Because when I sell it online, they always get the recipes. As soon as they complete the order, they get to the recipe site so they can see what to do with the product. Whereas when I give it in retail, they only get the pack. They need the instructions with that. So I was clear that, okay, we have to have the recipes if we give it in retail. But we were running out of time. And the creative agency who was doing the labeling didn't have time to do it on time for the export order. So what do I do? And Rajesh and I know that we have made a living by building PowerPoints on the flight. So this information I got when I was flying back from Delhi, and I'll give you that example why I went to Delhi. And then I got a call that, okay, we won't be able to have the recipes. And I looked at it, it's a landscape model. It looked like a slide to me, because 8 years if you work in Microsoft, you have seen a lot of slides. So what I did was on the 3 hours on the flight back from Delhi, I created 30 recipes. I created a slide template, and I copy and pasted, and I created the jackfruit recipes on the flight, and I reached Kerala. I sent it back to the designer. He said, okay, it takes me a few minutes to convert this to the back panel. And that's how we got the jackfruit. So always use your strength. Outsource where you're weak. Find a right partner. Then you can run faster. So final point I want to say is that, you must have a good cause for you to go through this. It takes a lot of resilience. And my prayer is to myself is, okay, do not do anything which could dilute my determination to see this through. Okay, so I have had, a lot of people talk about capital, right? So I had an investor who came to me and wanted to convert this to jackfruit fried chips. And I said, my fundamental objective of getting into jackfruit 365 is to create health. It's health creation. Wealth creation must happen because of my training, because of my business acumen. It has to come with health creation. So, but fundamental objective is to inject dietary fiber into an Indian professional's diet. And jackfruit should serve that purpose. And that is, it's a health creation is the #1 goal, and that is why we get all our partners staying together in this model. So you must have a good cause which will help you to see this through. With that, I conclude. Okay, we'll take some questions later. Thank you.
That's another fascinating story. I wish, we had some more time for this, because it seems a shame to really cut short and put some constraints. So I won't take any more, I won't stand between you and the last presentation today, which is by Rajesh Nair of MIT.
Okay, so good morning. It's almost I was trained as an electrical engineer, a physicist, a product designer, and an entrepreneur. So I did a couple of companies. So in my midlife crisis was to go back to school. So I went back to study for system design and management at MIT. So I got a fellowship from Mr. Ratan Tata, from Tata Trust. The goal was to study the problems faced by resource-constrained communities in India and use all the resources that MIT has to create solutions and make an impact. So I traveled all across India, in villages and places like that, and looked for health issues and housing and water and all kinds of things. And one thing is that when you see a problem, what you're seeing is the symptom, not the cause. Okay, so world hunger is a symptom; it's not a problem. Problem with the cause is something else. So you need to go from the symptom to the cause, create a solution, and then cycle it back so that you can make an impact back. So when you look at the cycle, I found that there are innovators in India that are just brilliant. They can actually create products and solutions. But what I found missing was that the link between the solution and making the cycle back to the end customer. So you are not actually making an impact, you are creating solutions. So I thought maybe the point I should actually focus on, who could actually complete the cycle and make an impact in the society. So that is why I started this I got into this topic as my research topic for my thesis. As a system thinker, I need to take a look at this from a larger point of view. How does entrepreneurship, my focus was primarily on students. Can you convert students into entrepreneurs? So entrepreneurs need ecosystems. And for Professor Fiona Murray at Sloan, she came up with this idea of a concept of a pentacle of players that make the ecosystem. You have the university creates innovations and innovators. You have government that creates policies and structure and even funding. You have corporates that they make up the customers as well as the suppliers for many of the entrepreneurs. Of course, then you have the risk capital, and that is what you need. And then you have the entrepreneur. But the entrepreneur needs more than just other four. The entrepreneur needs other entrepreneurs for creating an environment of and support and of course misery loves company. So you need to have a lot of other. That's the reason why we all get together here and cry on each other's shoulder when things go bad. We need entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs. But it's not just the four that create the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The two major other factors are the social culture and a spirit of failure. That means fail, that's fine, get up, dust out, and just start again. And the whole society should be able to support you on that. So if I study the system dynamics model of how entrepreneurs are formed, you have a universe of students. From there, some of them aspire to be entrepreneurs, and some of them really go start their own companies. But if you really look at the quality, or if you look at these characters, you actually, first thing you would actually see about a conversion of 1,000 to 1. In India, I think it may even be about 5,000 to 1. So you have, takes 5,000 students that are graduating of the 3 or 5,000 students to have one entrepreneur come out of that, which is very inefficient. Okay. Now, then if you really look at these entrepreneurs who start up, primarily they're inexperienced. When they come out and they say, well, I want to start a company, you may have incubators, accelerators, funding coming in, but you're supporting an entrepreneur who has never done this before. If you join the army, you would not, if you come to the army office and say, I want to join the army, they would not give you a gun and say, go to the border. There is no training. Entrepreneurs don't have any training before they actually start the first company. So again, this is from a system dynamics modeling. Then you need to be out of the school to really go deep into an entrepreneurship, into a startup, because it takes more time and effort than what you're in school during the. So you cannot be in school and do this real startup at the same time. There's a very high rate of failure. We talked about, several numbers came out, 9 out of 10, 3 out of 4. And with the, if you have a culture which doesn't let you, which lets you maybe even start once, but the moment you fail, they may not actually let you start the second time. That means your parents and family and all those things. The culture that sees the failure of an idea as a failure of a person kind of would not let you start again. So these are the kind of issues that I saw. And of course, when you have these entrepreneurs, if they succeed, they go on to become experienced entrepreneurs. So let me just digress for a little while. For every one of these entrepreneurs who jumps across and starts a company, one of these students who jump across and start a company, there are millions left behind. Do you think the others are not capable of starting a company? I don't think so. I think they have equal strength and equal capability to do that, but what is missing is a confidence to make the transition. The second part is we are actually putting money on people who make the jump, and we have very high expectations of them succeeding. All the funding that goes into it, they actually expect returns with no training. Then, even sports teams go out to high schools looking for talent and nurture them so that they can actually become a professional sports player. Evening TV, you see, musicians and dancers and do the same thing. So there is a channel for scouting talent. In entrepreneurship, right now we do not. We just look for the first one who stands up and say, I want to start a company. Then, of course, everyone jumps on them and makes them do that. But how about looking at people who are, who are all the fish in the bowl on the left side? So coming back to the system dynamics model, this is basically a stock and flow model. That means you have things flowing and stopping in each, it's like water flowing into different tanks. So you have people have moved from aspiring to practicing to experienced entrepreneurs. These are the valves. Okay, so that can change the flow of flow through all these pipes. Ecosystem within a university can actually change these taps. You can actually open the valves. That means if you have a very healthy ecosystem, that can actually improve the flow. Of course, when there are entrepreneurs in a area, you have investors coming in, because investors are primarily entrepreneurs who feed off other entrepreneurs in a good way, and they support the tap. Again, they open up the tap so that more people can actually come through. When there are more entrepreneurs, it actually supports the ecosystem, and when that happens, the university starts creating programs. And this is a very interesting point. Today, if you go onto the websites of engineering colleges all across India, the primary currency that they talk about is number of placements. 90% placement, 100% placement, or whatever. Now, imagine if a university can say, we create about 10 companies every year. In MIT, one thing I really noticed the difference was, nobody talks about placement. And we really talk about the companies that come out of that. And there is an ecosystem, there's a culture of starting companies. And believe me, the students there are not any smarter than any other students I can actually, in India or anywhere else. It is just the culture and the ecosystem within the university that makes the difference. So, of course, government sometimes get involved, and actually in Kerala you have the most supportive government for entrepreneurship. They support all these programs. But when you look at all these things, for the rest of the system to work, you need to have a number of entrepreneurs so that the investors can come in, government can start creating programs. But this is the bottleneck that we have. We do not have enough conversion of students to entrepreneurs for the rest of the system to start operating on. So for my thesis, I thought maybe that is the key bottleneck that I should focus on. I said, let's not work, if I need to create entrepreneurs in this country or any society, I need to focus on those two little taps. And how can I change the mindset of students to think that they can actually start companies and then encourage them to really go start companies. I believe there is an entrepreneur in every one of us. It is our, we have to awaken this entrepreneur. I can see students graduating and starting up, taking up a job, and once they start setting up in a family and things like that, having once they settle down in the family, it's much harder for them to go back and start companies. Some of us have actually done much later in our lives, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. Self-efficacy or the confidence is a critical element. So if you really ask people what really turned them on, it is not that they saw something very, an opportunity there, but primarily they saw that I think I can do it. It is a self-efficacy is a confidence that you feel that you can do something even though you don't have the resources to get to there. Throw me into a problem, I can find my way through. That confidence has to be built for someone to make the transition. And we need to actually get involved early on so we could accelerate them. So my research questions were, can we change the attitude of people? Can we build self-efficacy in individuals? And can we build entrepreneurship ecosystems in small areas? Can we create it from nothing? So I did an experiment. I went to three colleges in India, and I picked 50 students in each of these colleges, and from all different disciplines, all years, from all backgrounds, rich, poor, people with English medium education and otherwise, and all kinds of, I'll come to that later. And I did not really care about the academic performance for selection. The colleges that I chose were very small or second-tier colleges. That means I didn't want to go to IIT and try an experiment because I don't know if the effect is because of what they have or what I do. So I went to colleges that had no innovation and entrepreneurship initiatives, and some of them were really small colleges. And I created a program of teaching them, actually I shouldn't say teaching, there is less teaching and more mentoring. That means I took them through the process of looking for problems, creating solutions, and then finding the tools to create the solutions. So it actually is a little backwards. So when someone says, I cannot write code, I said, no, you don't need to write code. Let's look at the problem. These are the 5 things that you need to do. When you come to the problem, they need to write code. Okay, now go learn. How do you write the first line of code, second line of code? Instead of going through the coursework of learning C and then trying to write, so let's actually figure out if you really need to do that and then go learn the tools. So you are actually you're educating with a purpose at that point. So the learning objectives for my course was, I wanted the students to come out, they should be able to identify problems with worthwhile problems. Worthwhile problems means it should either have financial value or it should have social impact. So do not start with technology. Really, really look at the problem that you see in the field. And evaluate it as an opportunity. Would you really invest your time and money into it? And then go through the process of ideation of solutions. and then actually fabricate prototypes. Because if you have an idea, if you do not create a prototype and test it, it just stays as an idea, which has never been tested. But if you really make something, you know why it doesn't work if it doesn't work, or when you can improve on it and modify and move on. So fabrication is actually an essential culture that we need to build. They need to create how does the solution actually get to the end customer? How do you get your money back? How do you collect money from in the process? And pitch. How can you stand up and communicate your ideas to your customers, to your investors, and anyone else who would actually listen to you? Okay. So that actually is another part of building their own confidence. For them, they have to stand up and pitch their ideas. So I did this at Mar Basilius College in Trivandrum, in Muzaffarnagar, Uttar Pradesh, and that's a 4-year-old college. And I tried to take them out into the industry, find out problems that are really faced in the industry by the factories around there, and so that they can actually have an interaction with the industry and the institute. So any solution that they create, they actually have a captive customer. And now they have actually picked up after I left. Now they do multiple projects in these places. And the third one was in Varnanagar, which is very close to Kolhapur. Same story. It's a very small. Varnanagar is such a small village. Even on Google Map, you need to zoom in a few more times to see it. It's such a small place. So the data I collected were, of course, the personal information, their age, then family information, parents' education, the urban, their kind of upbringing and exposure to business and such. And I monitored their confidence in doing different things. These are through surveys. I'm questioning and collecting data from them before and after. Can you just play that video? I don't know how to play it from here. Just play on at the bottom. So what I did was I created this curriculum, went to this place, found a room where I could. Okay, so I took things like 3D printer, a board making machine. I took Arduinos and electronics and all kinds of things with me, and I carried all those things. And because I wanted to make sure that they had enough tools to, if we move the track, so I created a small fab lab in each of these places, and I taught them how to use it. We went out into the field, looking for problems in the hospitals and markets and things like that. We observed what was happening. We came back and discussed all these issues. There's no audio, so don't worry. We ideated different solutions and we actually fabricated them. We taught them all these, how to make these things. And there's a 3D printer making machines, making mechanical parts for their products and such. And at the end of the day, they actually had to stand up and pitch. They learned basically 3D CAD, downloaded free 3D CAD program. They basically learned that, and electronic CAD and such. So a civil engineer was writing code, mechanical engineer was designing circuits, and they could actually pick it up all in very short time. And at the end of the 6 weeks, it did another survey and looked to see what was happening. And 50% or more, actually, Mr. P.H. Kurian was there at the end of the show. I asked them on the last day of when they were demonstrating all their products and pitching their concepts. Nearly all of them said they want to start companies, and then 50% of them actually, I would actually rate it down to about 50%. 10% of them wanted to start companies right away, and 6 ventures came out. Of course, these guys started something. They started pivoted out. They broke down. They changed teams, and then formed all those. They're all fine as long as the churn happens. As long as they're thinking entrepreneurship, that is absolutely fine. And there was a very significant change in their confidence. They created entrepreneurship clubs within the colleges. And in Muzaffarnagar, they even created the industry liaison so that they can actually interact with the industry and create projects and build companies from there. You can actually see a bell curve of confidence before and after to the right. For boys and girls, actually the change that I saw in girls was very heartening. Look at that. Most of them, when you ask, can you do any of these things, they said, no, I cannot do any of these things. And then after the 6 weeks of program, everything changed. This was a comparison on confidence in so many different parts. Yes, yeah. If you know the movie Minority Report, they have this concept of someone figuring out who's going to do a crime and actually catching them early. It's called the precogs. Question is, if I have all this data, can I predict who's going to be an entrepreneur? And that is, if you can actually figure out that a girl at this age of this family background has a 20% higher chance of becoming an entrepreneur, we could actually go focus on those people. So we took the data, again, this multiple information here. We found that after doing some regression analysis with all the data, we found absolutely no correlation. So that means we cannot predict who's going to be an entrepreneur out of all these people that we worked with. So the deal is that we actually have to expose them early, so that if they have a entrepreneurship trend in them, the takeaway is that entrepreneurs can be made, and ecosystems can be built from ground up, and that can change the society. It is difficult to predict entrepreneurs, who's going to become one or the other. So we need to actually cast a broader net early, to do that. This is a very interesting, I've been running this program called Tech Top for the last 10 years. It's a competition that's been running in Trivandrum, the national level competition. I decided I'm going to start a live-in entrepreneurship innovation center near Trivandrum, in Chirangad actually. So I'm running one from December 21st through 28th. I have a small fab lab. I have all the live-in place where I have mentors from MIT and from India coming and staying with the students 24/7. We'll be working on projects together for a whole week or maybe 2 weeks in the next time around. And any of you interested, you should actually apply at techtop.in. And how do you take this thing for an impact in the industry, whatever we just talked about? Can we build regional ecosystems? Can we go build ecosystems in economically depressed areas? What about disaster-prone areas? It is found that an entrepreneurship region with more entrepreneurship culture can recover faster after a disaster. This was at the Hurricane Katrina and in New Orleans. They found that regions actually recovered faster. How about untapped demographics and conflict areas? Instead of fighting in areas where you have wars and terrorism and things like that, can we train them to be entrepreneurs? Can we change their thinking and culture? So with that, I know we are running very late, so I'll stop here. Thank you.
I think you will all agree with me that these 4 presentations, these 4 different, very different takes on the entrepreneurial journey definitely deserved more time. And I'm looking with accusing eyes at Rajesh, the other Rajesh Nair and the organizers, which, I feel this deserved more time. But you will all agree with me that despite these constraints, I think what we've heard has definitely set the stage for what is going to be, without a shadow of a doubt, a very fascinating TiECon 2014. So with that, I will close this session. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for Q&A, but they are all available here for so during the lunch break and during various other opportunities, you will get the chance to buttonhole them and ask all the questions which I'm sure are brimming in your minds. So thank you all for being a great audience, and I thank the panelists for being really wonderful and sharing their experiences with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thanks to each one of you all for giving us your very inspiring speeches. I request the hostess to kindly come forward with the memento. And sir, I request you to give away the memento.